All right, you guys, to set up your realistic eye, you'll need a ruler. If you don't have a ruler to make this grid, in the slideshow, there's a 3-inch mark, and I can definitely help you with that if you don't have a ruler. You can also just eyeball it because we're doing the best we can right now. Your paper should be 9 inches by 9 inches, and you're gonna make 3 even columns. So I'm gonna put a little dash at 3 and 6 because it's gonna make 3 even columns. I'm gonna do that on all 4 edges of my paper. And then I'm gonna use a straight edge to connect my dashes. So this grid is gonna help us draw our realistic eye very large, and the squares of our grid is gonna help us with our circles. We're gonna use the 3-circle method, just like we learned in our practice. And so our grid is gonna help us kind of get that onto our final paper. So you wanna do this really lightly, and please pause this video as you work so that I'm not moving too fast. All right, the first circle is gonna be within this center square. And when I'm drawing a circle like this, I kind of hover and sketch it out, see if I can get it to hit all the sides of my square. And I'm just lightly drawing it in, and then I'm gonna get rid of any lines that didn't work, which is the beauty of sketching lightly. The second circle is our pupil, which is gonna go in the center of our eye. In that video we watched, this is, the hole in your eye that gets bigger in darker rooms to let more light in and gets smaller in bright spaces. And then the third circle is gonna be our biggest circle, which is the eyeball itself. So I'm gonna mark halfway around. So I'm just taking this measurement and marking halfway around, and that's gonna give me a little dashed line in order to make this final circle. Now, to make bigger circles, I usually kind of turn my paper and keep my hand in the same position and just make these little sketchy dashed lines. And I can fix anything as I'm working. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is for shading purposes. So again, pause this as you work. All right, the next step is we're gonna create like a little tear duct on one side, because if we look at an image of a real eye, we'll notice that there's a tear duct on the inside of the eye, right outside the eyeball. So I'm just gonna create like a little bump right here. And then I'm gonna make my eyelids. I'm gonna start my eyelids in this center box, about halfway up. And I'm gonna make my top eyelid curve up towards the top of the iris. And then it's gonna kind of swoop down towards the tear duct. Now my bottom eyelid is a little bit trickier, so I'm actually gonna turn my paper upside down. I'm gonna hit the bottom of my iris and then swoop up to the corner. Now the shape of your eyes might change as you work, depending on your surreal drawing. So we're just gonna map it in for now. The last 2 things we're gonna map in are the crease of the eye, where our eyelid is gonna go back, and when we start shading, it's gonna help. And then the eyebrow. And the eyebrow is gonna start directly above the center, and it's gonna arch, again, depending on the eyebrow, beyond right to the edge of the paper. And it might go off the edge of the paper, and that's just fine. So once we're at this point, we can absolutely work on erasing our grid. But that doesn't mean that the grid didn't help us with those circles. I think it's a really important aspect to make sure that we get our eye drawing big enough. Now I'm not going to erase the eyeball, even though it is going to be covered up quite a bit by the eyelids. I'm not going to erase it just yet because it's going to help us with our shading. We're not going to shade this until we're done mapping out our surreal objects as part of our eye design. We're also going to add eyelashes and a couple other details once we get started next. But this is just in general how to set up our realistic eye drawing on our square paper.